What do you do when you've made a wrong decision or made a wrong turn on the road? And what do you do when everything seems to be going wrong? Can a journey go from bad to worse? Yeah, it can. And I experienced all of these things on a recent road trip to South Dakota. And in the next episode, episode 4, I'm going to get into all the dirty details. But right now, let's just go back about 1,000 miles. I'm going to lead you up to the point of impact. Let's see, on day 1, we left at 6:45 in the morning, and after a whole day of travel, we were a total of 126 miles from home. Why? Well, you need to check out the last episode. South Dakota Part 2 was a catastrophe. I have all the details in there. And then on day 2, we only drove 234 miles. You think 2 grown men could drive more than that? But this trip was full of things that just went wrong. But even so, on day 2, even before we drove the very first mile, I'd already lost a $500 camera. I'd lost a tripod. And see, I wanted to document the whole trip, traveling in the new coach, so I had placed a GoPro on a tripod to capture all of the activity. Well, when I drove off, I just simply forgot to pick it up. And I looked for days, I think at least 2 days, looking for that GoPro. It finally dawned on me the last time I had seen it was back at Barkley Lake, which was the first day. So this trip was supposed to fulfill kind of a lifelong desire of mine to do some out west traveling. But after only 234 miles on day 2, 3, we weren't camping. We were boondocking at a Cracker Barrel in Ferguson, Missouri. And I want to give a shout out to Ferguson, Missouri for all the bad headlines that they received in the last few years. We met a lot of wonderful people on this trip, but the people in Ferguson, Missouri were by far the kindest, sweetest people we met anywhere on the trip. So we would highly recommend that if you're going through Ferguson, Missouri, that stop at Cracker Barrel. If you're traveling and need to boondock, that's a great place to do so. If you just want a meal, stop at the Cracker Barrel in Ferguson, Missouri. The next morning, day 3, here we are, going on day 3. And we were going to try to make up for some lost time. So we spent over 8 hours on the road. We drove a total of 511 miles. We made it to Sioux City, Sioux City, Iowa. And here again, supposed to be camping, we're boondocking in a Walmart. It's on Cornhusker Drive. So again, if you're traveling, need to boondock in that area, was a great place to boondock, but we're just losing time. If anything could go wrong on a trip, this was the trip that it was all gonna happen. So I usually use a program called RV Parky to help initially plan the trip. It's really a good program. You can see it here. You just click on a destination. It'll figure the miles, and then it'll ask you if you want to find a place to stay. And that's what we did. It's a really neat program. I do recommend it. There might be some other good ones out there. You simply put in your destination and you let the app find the campgrounds or places to boondock. So now, 2-week trip. We're on day 4, leaving Walmart. This is going to be our highest mileage day yet, 549 miles. Just time to put the pedal to the metal and get to the Dakota Badlands. Well, we had driven a short distance, and then we took a break at Fort Randall Dam in South Dakota. Good place to stop and stretch your legs.
Fort Randall Dam is about a little over 2 miles long. It's an earthen dam. It spans the Missouri River, and it makes Lake Francis, which is the 11th largest reservoir in the United States. And it joins several counties there in South Dakota. It's got a total distance of 880 river miles. So it goes from there clear down to St. Louis. It is a hydroelectric power plant, and it's operated by the Army Corps of Engineers. We wish we'd have known more about this. It would have been a good place to find a campground. But one of the things that we found very interesting about this was, look at the, let's see if I can find the pictures here. Look at the roads. The roads are pink. See, the side of it is black, but when you're driving on this, the roads are very, very pink. I've got some more pictures of this that I'll show you. And I wish I could remember exactly why we found out that they were pink, but I think it was something to do with the magnesium that's in the rocks that are there. Let me tell you, if you're going to drive across South Dakota, be very rested up because it's boring. I mean, you go for miles and miles and you see nothing. You see no one.
We would have made much better time had we stayed on or gone up to Interstate 90. But we had this brilliant idea to take the Scenic Route. We wanted to go through the Indian reservations, drive for miles and miles and miles, and there's nothing to see. The real downfall of not taking the interstate is the roads are brutal. I felt like they were just beating the coach up. They were going to destroy the coach. Sometimes the bumps were so bad it would completely lift my feet up off the floor of the coach. It seemed like every 8 feet or so there was an expansion joint. So bump, 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 bump. So if you're going to be driving through South Dakota, if you want to see the Indian reservations, that's fine. But just be prepared. It's going to wear you out. Well, here we are, day 4. Longest day yet. We finally made it to the Badlands. We saw signs saying this was the Badlands, and Tom was behind the wheel. I saw a sign that said Badlands State Park, and I pointed to it. And Tom kept driving. Well, then I saw a sign to that famous Wall, South Dakota, where that big drugstore is, big tourist destination. I pointed it out, and Tom kept driving. Well, part of the reason was we didn't really know where we were. So far out in the boonies that there was no GPS, really, no GPS, no phone, no internet service. And I was using a service, Nomad Internet. Well, it could find no signal. So we're driving blind through the South Dakota Badlands, just trying to find out where we are. And nothing was working. We had just spent 4 grueling days on this trip. We had missed our mark. We're going along these state roads. The GPS stopped working. We had no phone service. We had no internet. We were lost. We didn't know if we were going west, didn't know if we were going north, and we wanted to stop and camp, but we didn't know where we were. If anything could go wrong on a trip, this was the trip that it was going to happen. So what do we do? I told Tom just to keep driving, and eventually we had to come to some kind of civilization, and we did. Eventually, I figured we'd get a GPS signal. We couldn't even check the weather. We really had no communication at all in this part of South Dakota. I think we're going through the Yankton Indian Reservation. So completely lost. Well, eventually, as we drove, we did come into, I think it was Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I was able to get some internet and see where we are. But by then, we had passed the Badlands. We'd passed all the tourist places, all the things that we wanted to see. Well, I think I was texting my daughter by then, or talking to her on the phone, and told her about where we were. And she said something about Buffalo Roundup. And I looked at the calendar. Yeah, I looked it up. The Buffalo Roundup was going to be the very next day. She said, Dad, that's bucket list stuff. You have to go to the buffalo roundup. I told Tom, he said, okay, that's it. So we head on over to Custer State Park, where the roundup would be the next day. We get there thinking we could get a place to camp in Custer State Park. Well, they're completely full. Every campground for miles and miles and miles around was full. So I used RV Parky and found this place about an hour away in Angostura State Park. I think it was a man-made lake there. So we thought, okay, we'll head on down. It's getting late in the day. We got to the park, finally got settled in. We fixed some dinner and thought, okay, the next few days, everything's going to go okay. We're here in the park. We're going to stay 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 nights. We'll be able to relax. We'll be able to go to the Buffalo Roundup, go visit Mount Rushmore and the different things that are in that area of South Dakota. Before we left Custer State Park and they were telling us about the Buffalo Roundup, they said you need to be here at 6:15 in the morning because there's going to be thousands of people lined up to go up the mountains and see the Buffalo Roundup. So we were going to be there at 6:15. Well, that next day we got up early. We were going to be there about 6:15, but next day is really the day of infamy, and the unthinkable's going to happen. Before we could get there at 6:15, the worst thing that could happen, I guess, happened. You know, we'd already lost a Honda, we lost a camera, we lost a tripod, we had no GPS, we'd been lost for a day or so. We were getting longer, the trip was getting longer and longer. We were seeing nothing. So now we're going to go into day 5. And day 5 is when I begin to say, okay, this was a mistake. We shouldn't have done this. We should turn around. We should go back. So I'm going to save that for the next episode. Hope you'll come back and join us. Well, I hope y'all will come back for that next episode, and we're going to go into the twilight zone, literally the morning twilight zone, and I'll show you where the attack on my RV took place. We're going to also visit the Buffalo Roundup. I want you to see what that's like. Now, I want to thank all of you who watched last week's episode. I've never had 700 hits just that quickly. So I must have done something right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Picked up a number of subscribers. So if you would do me a favor, before you click off of this thing, if you see that thumbs up, please give it a thumbs up. That's a like button. And next to that, you see the little subscribe. Hit that. It doesn't cost anything. And then next to that, there's a little bell. If you hit that bell, every time there's a new episode out, you will be one of the first to be notified that there is a new episode coming out. And then one last thing, down in this comments section below, just say howdy. The algorithms on YouTube are always looking for the likes, the subscribes, the bells, and the comments. And I'm already getting YouTube's attention. They're seeing that people are beginning to watch this channel. You can be a part of that. So in future episodes, I'm going to finish telling you about this trip to South Dakota. There's more than just the Buffalo Roundup. There's Mount Rushmore. There's Crazy Horse. Other things that we saw out there. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it very, very much. And when you see your mama, make sure you tell your mama and them I said hey.